بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. گزر گئے تھے کئی دن کہ گھر میں اب نہ تھا. گزر گئے تھے کئی دن کہ گھر میں اب نہ تھا. مگر حسین سے صابر کو اضطراب نہ تھا. گزر گئے تھے اگر بہشت میں ہوتے نہ کوثر و تسنیم. اگر بہشت میں ہوتے نہ کوثر و آنکھوں کا پھر جواب نہ تھا. گزر گئے تھے حسین اور حسین اور طلب آب معاذ تمام کرتے تھے حجت. گزر گئے تھے وہ لوگ جمع تھے قتل حسین پر کہ جنہیں وہ لوگ جمع تھے قتل حسین پر کہ جنہیں خدا سے خوف محمد. گزر گئے تھے فقط حسین کے بچوں پہ بند تھا پانی. فقط حسین کے بچوں پہ بند تھا پانی. بہت قریب تھی وہ نہر قحط آب نہ تھا. گزر گئے تھے غضب کی چاہ کے دربار میں ستمگر کے. غضب کی چاہ کے دربار بہار میں ستم گر کے کھڑی تھی بنت علی اور کچھ حجاب نہ تھا. گزر گئے تھے کئی دن کہ گھر میں اب نہ تھا. بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. زندہ میں سکینہ یہ بکا کرتی تھی رو کر. زندہ میں سکینہ یہ بکا کرتی تھی رو کر. دم گھٹتا ہے اماں میرا اب یہاں زندہ میں سکینہ یہ بکا کرتی تھی روتا کچھ بھی ہاتھ رکھتا نہیں اماں میرے سر پر کوئی اور چند روز میں مر جاؤں گی میں گھٹ گھٹ کر. زندہ خون بھرا کرتا بدل دو میرا پیاری اماں. خون بھرا کرتا بدل دو میرا پیاری اماں. اپنی گودی میں سلا دو مجھے واری اماں. سونے نہیں سونے دیتا نہیں ایک پل بھی مجھے شمر پہ در. زندہ میں سکینہ یہ بکا کرتی تھی رو کر. خاک پہ سوتی ہوں بابا کا نہیں ہے سینہ. خاک پہ سوتی ہوں بابا کا نہیں ہے سینہ. کتنا دشوار ہے اس درد و الم میں جینا، غم میں بابا کی ہوں مغموم، چچا کی مضطر زندہ میں سکینہ یہ بکا کرتی تھی رو کر، تم تو صلوات پر محمد وآل محمد۔
صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔ ہمارے کام تاسی کے کام ہوتے ہیں، اسی لیے تو ہم اشکوں سے منہ کو دھوتے ہیں، ہمارے رونے کو دنیا سمجھ نہیں سکتی، ہم اس پر روتے ہیں جس پر رسول روتے ہیں، ہمارے کام اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔ خیر سے چھٹ کے آئی ہے زینب، صدمے دل پر اٹھائی ہے زینب، خبر شے کی بنائی ہے زینب، کچھ یتیموں کو لائی ہے زینب، کہتی ہے رو کے لو خبر بھائی، ختم اب ہو گیا سفر بھائی، میں ہوں زینب فلک ستائی ہوں، تم سے ملنے یہاں میں آئی ہوں، اور لٹے قافلے کو لائی ہوں، بھائی کیا کیا ستم اٹھائی ہوں، شام تک ننگے سر گئی زینب، کیوں نہ پہلے ہی مر گئی زینب، اٹھ کے دیکھو تو ایک نظر بھائی، ٹکڑے صدموں سے ہے جگر بھائی، ہو گیا ہے سفید سر بھائی، جھک گئی ہے میری کمر بھائی، وعدہ ضیا اب نہ اٹھ کے یہاں سے جاؤں گی، خبر بالوں سے اپنے جھاڑوں گی، پھول ہر صبح میں چڑھاؤں گی، شمع راتوں کو میں جلاؤں گی، یوں ہی ہو جائے گی بسر بھائی، کیا کرے جی کے نو، کیا کرے جی کے نو کیا بتاؤں شہید کی حالات، تن تھا زخمی تھی دھوپ کی شدت، اور نمازی پیاس کی شدت، سر اٹھانے کی بھی نہ دی دفن اس جا ہے نامور بھائی، دے دیا رائے میں سر بھائی، تھی مقدر میں میرے رسوائی، کیوں نہ دربار ہی میں موت آئی، پیش حاکم گئی یہ دکھ پائے، غصہ آیا تھا پی گئی بھائی، جو ہوئے ظلم سہ گئی زینا، سب کے رونے کو رہ گئے زینا.
Assalamu alaikum. Quick reminder, the next Majlis series will begin from Friday. So on the English side, Sheikh Dr. Mehdi Hazari will recite the Majlis on the English hall in the old Legacy Hall. And the Urdu Majalis will be related by Maulana Yasir Nakhwi. There will be Namaz Maghrib Jamaat every day at 7:30. So please be on time. And then inshallah Arba'in will be on the 28th. Brothers and sisters from our community, we'd like to give our humble gratitude to Maulana Agha Mehdi from Boston, Massachusetts for reciting these majalises and enlightening us. We pray for his long life, health and prosperity, and inshallah that he continues to enlighten our community with his knowledge. And I'd like to request Maulana to come and recite his last majalis today. Please welcome him with a loud salawat. One more salawat.
فاتحہ. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. الحمد للہ رب العالمین. الحمد للہ الذی لا یبلغ مدحتہ القائلون. ولا يحصينا ماءه العادون ولا يعد حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نات موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته اللهم أفز صلة سلواتك وسلامة تسليماتك على أفضل التعينات المفاضة من الأماء رباني وآخر التنزلات المضافة إلى نوع الإنسان كان الله ولم يكن معه شيء ثاني محصي لعوالم حضرات الخاص في وجوده وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام المبين الرسول النبي المكي المدني القرشي التحامي صاحب لواء الحمد ومقام المحمود أبي القاسم محمد الحميد صل على محمد وعلى سبتي الرحمة وسيدا شباب أهل الجنة الحسن والحسين اللهم صل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد وحسن بن علي وحجة القائم المنتظر المهدي ما صل على محمد حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك اللهم سهل منهجهم وعجل في فرجهم وجعلنا من محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما أرسلنا من رسول إلا ليطاع بإذن الله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات على محمد وآل محمد I begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. It is our honor and it is tawfiq and inspiration from Allah that we are commemorating the Agha of Sayyidul Shuhada, whose name and whose remembrance Allah has promised shall never extinguish, because these are those minarets of guidance and light that are the only source of salvation for mankind if it is seeking salvation towards God. They are only those exclusive servants of Allah through whom mankind could save itself from the deceptions of shaitan. As shaitan has promised, surely and surely he shall deviate mankind except for the exclusive servants. And it is only through his son and the Imam of our time that we can attain salvation, we can seek salvation, and we can be steadfast on the path of salvation. And for that we need to adhere to what pleases the Imam of our time. And what pleases the Imam of our time is what pleases all of our A'immah. And their pleasure is sought through our obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because they were only reflection of guidance, they were only reflection of the light of haqq that would lead us to Allah. They had never, when people become popular, when leaders become popular, their focus revolves around their personality, and their focus is to absorb people to make sure that they serve them. But Ahlul Bayt are not like that. The moment you connect with Ahlul Bayt, they will get you connected with Allah. They had never sought people to idealize them and worship them, but rather worship Allah. They have been seeking and they have been ensuring that those who are on their path, those who seek them, that they shall guide them. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And that is what the mission of all those who have been sent as guides from Allah is. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا لِيُطَاعَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Quran says, we have not sent apostles and prophets but to be obeyed by the permission of Allah. And our obedience to them leads to success in the life of this world and also in the afterlife. So if we want to examine Karbala, if we want to examine those who surrounded Imam Hussein, they might be in small numbers, but when you look at their azaim, when you look at their aspirations were reaching the skies. Their azaim were not small. Their goals were not meager. They were not trying to see how I can save my head or save my life and move forward. They were not looking for excuses so that they could be saved. Their aspirations were such that the whole of mankind would be emancipated from the hypocrisy of Bani Umayyah once and for all if they come forward and they would withstand the hardships of that day so that Islam would prevail. This is what they were looking for, my dear sisters. Look at our aspirations, look at our azaim. We find ourselves willing to concede and surrender for paltry gains. For very small things we are willing to surrender. We are willing to give away our deen. But they were the ones who were asserting that they were on Deen Ali, Deen Husainin wa Hasan. I was sharing the rajas or the poetry that the martyrs of Karbala were declaring that why are we being persecuted? Why are we being killed? Why are we being, in Karbala made to die out of thirst? Because we were on Deen Ali. So if the companions of Imam Hussein and the family of Ahl al-Bayt and his companions had to endure hardships because they were on Deen Ali, what do we expect? If we are on Deen Ali, we are not going to endure hardships. We are not going to confront hardships. We are not going to confront challenges. Life is going to be very easy. A lot of us did had some hardships, but we thought this is a haven, this is a refuge where we will never see hardships because we have migrated to a land which is very, very affluent, which is very, very rich in resources. So now there are not going to be hardships. There are going to be hardships of different kinds. And the biggest hardship of ours is not the hardship of our sustenance to live or to sustain our body and be alive. The biggest hardship and the biggest challenge that we have is to protect and preserve and save our iman. If our iman is gone, everything is lost. There is nothing else. Then Quran says, Kal anam balhum azal. They are like animals, they are even worse than animals. But the same people, if they rise up, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they can get so close to me. When Allah is praising the proximity of Rasulullah to Allah himself, it talks about Qaba Qawsain aw Adna, that my beloved messenger came so close to me, as if it was the distance of two bows, or maybe even closer than that. That is how much his hujjah can rise, Quran says. And if it falls from grace, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, Quran says, that we have created man with the best of creation. ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ السَّافِلِينَ, and then we have lowered him down into a place of test, أَسْفَلَ السَّافِلِينَ, where he has to rise up by purifying himself, and if he does so, he can come to those maqamat. And I always reiterate this point, my dear brothers and sisters, that Ahlul Bayt want us to be in the station that they themselves were. They were not calling for us to a station which was lower than them. They were calling us to the station that they themselves were standing. Had anybody that zarf, that capacity, Ahlul Bayt would lead them to a position where the Prophet of Allah would say, As-Salmanu minna Ahlul Bayt. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We recite this dua in Eid. Eid is the day of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have endured so much by performing the holy pilgrimage of Hajj, or by performing the duties, or if we have fasted for the whole month of holy month of Ramadan and we are reciting the Salatul Eid. In the Qunut we recite 5 times and 4 times, Allahumma ahlal kibriya wal azama wa ahlal jud wal jabarut. In that dua there is a section, an tudkhilani fi kulli khairin adkhalta fihi Muhammadan wa ali Muhammad. Masalli ala. Oh Allah, make me enter into all that khair that you have made Muhammad wa ali Muhammad to enter. Whatever you have given to Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, Ya Allah, I want the same. Wa an tukhrijani min kulli su'in akhrajta minhu Muhammadan wa ali Muhammad. Oh Allah, take me out from all that impurities that you have taken. Those ashab of Imam Hussain who have attained that maqam, who have attained that fawz, my dear brothers and sisters. And those who were not in Karbala, we find Hujr ibn Adi and another companion of Rasulullah that I mentioned yesterday, for whom Imam Hussain is defending their faith. Imam Hussain is testifying that they were salihin, they were muti'een, they were abideen. Al-Hasan, that our Imam can vouch for us. Our Imam can sign us off and say, yes, they are the ones how I want my companions to be. They are the ones who are not going to disappoint me. They are the ones who are going to be a source of pride for Islam and Muslimin. We have to have that integrity of character. We have to preserve our deen in a state that it is not shaken by small calamities. Are we there? Are we really there? We should reflect, my dear brothers and sisters. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Because there are only 2 categories of people that matter. The third category, Maulana Amirul Mu'minin says, doesn't really matter. Maulana Amirul Mu'minin says, An-nasu salasatun. People are divided in 3 categories. Fal-alimun rabbaniyun. The first one is an alim rabbani, a scholar who is not a worldly scholar, a scholar who is a godly scholar, a scholar whose life revolves around Allah. Alimun rabbaniyun. And the second one is wa muta'allimun ala sabilin najat. And the other one is a muta'allim ala sabilin najat. It is a seeker, a student who is seeking salvation. And then finally, the rest are wahamajun ra'aun. And then the rest of them are ignorant riff-raffs. जैसे उर्दू में कहते हैं घास फूस, उसका literal translation यही है. Somebody whose worth, whose value, whose life does not worth anything. Either one has to be alim rabbani, or a person has to be muta'allim ila sabilin najat, who's seeking salvation, who is not just seeking dunya. Dunya will be part of it. Nobody is saying that we should start all going towards Himalayas and be sages in the mountains. Dunya is like a bridge that we have to cross. Dunya is like a stopover, a rest area that we see on the highways when we are traveling. You do not camp in your rest area and start living there. Rest areas are only to pass through. Take some rest, eat some food, take a nap so that you are ready for the next journey. That is the purpose of rest areas. So dunya is like that. But the akhirah is what matters. And for us, if we want to be truly the companions of our Imam, we have to be, we cannot be Alam Rabbani, because Alam Rabbani is of course Ahl al-Bayt or Awliya Ilahi. But we can be Muta'allim ila Sabilin Najat. We could be all those students who are seeking salvation, who are very, very serious about it. See how focused we are about our careers, how focused I want my child to have education from that school district. I am planning to go and be part of a university. If I am an alumni of a university, it would be easier for my child to be educated into that university. We find ways and means and sacrifice time and energy to ensure that we plan out a future for our children which would give them a life which is comfortable, which gives them careers which have value. What about our akhirah? What about the akhirah of our own child? How are we seriously planning about it? How quickly we drop the ball. Month of Ramadan comes, exams, all of us know. Elders in the home say, beta, don't fast. Exams are coming, you focus on your exam. Suddenly we are teaching our child not to obey Allah. We are ourselves teaching out of our own unknown fears that children should not have the courage to stand on principles that they believe. And then we expect our children to be mu'mineen who are very, very steadfast on their faith. That's not going to happen, my dear brothers and sisters. We have to really reinforce what we believe and should be ready to pay the cost, to pay the price, as mazlumeen, not as zalimeen, as those who can endure hardships, as those who can be oppressed upon but are not willing under any circumstances to oppress others, to wrong others. That is the character that our Aima wants from us. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So yesterday also I was mentioning, how we see ourselves, or how the Imam had described his companions and how the Imam was protecting, and how the Imam had said that the best thing for him and his companions and his children is to confront Bani Umayyah even before Yazid came into power. Because Yazid was the peak of the inhiraf, of the deviation. The deviation had already occurred. People were already being bought. People were already being told in Kufa that I do not care about your salat and your som, your fasting. I don't care about it. This is what the father of Yazid said when he came to Kufa. I don't care about all of this. Whether you pray or you don't pray, I don't really care. Anybody stands up against my regime, my power, I will not only crush him, I will crush his generations. This is the perspective with which Islamic leadership was leading Islam, without the ruh and the soul of Islam. And therefore Imam Hussain had to come and give life back to the body of Islam which was dying. And we see those companions coming. So now bring that in the context of the Imam of our time. When he is also going to come, what do you expect? Is it not going to be, things are going to be easy? There are not going to be any hardships at that time? People are not going to be confronted with hardships? No, of course there are going to be hardships and there are going to be challenges, and those challenges are going to lead to further difficulties. And if you look at all the other Aima also, they did not had strong support. Imam Zainul Abidin says that, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If I add people from Mecca and Medina all together, the Imam says that I do not have more than 20 followers. Our fourth Imam. Even after Karbala, it's not like, there was this movement of Tawabin. They went in and did things on their own. And we do find them sacrificing their lives. But there is a statement of our fourth Imam which says, I don't have even 20 followers, both Mecca and Medina together. So what are the conditions in which the Imam is going to come? I will cite them very, very quickly because I want to talk a little bit also about how we can prepare ourselves. So the conditions are that the governments will be despotic. There will be tyrannical regimes running in the world. The world will be filled with tyranny and injustice, the Prophet says, such that there will be fear and war in every house. These are the, signs of the coming of the Imam. To such an extent that a believer will not find a sanctuary, the Prophet says, in which he could seek refuge. A believer would not find a sanctuary. Wherever they are, 70 years, India became independent, there was India, there was Pakistan. Look at how things are unfolding. After 70 years, what? Or look at the situation in Iraq. Look at the situation wherever believers are, how difficult times they are going through. And then the Prophet of Allah says that this Khilafah is going to turn into a rule of amirs, rulers, and then it is going to be followed by kings, and then it's going to be followed by tyrants and oppressors. These are the signs of the coming of our Imam. And then my Mehdi, the Prophet says, shall reappear. Another place, Mullah Amirul Mu'minin says, the world will be filled with tyranny and injustice such that there will be fear and grief in every house. Fear and grief in every house, we can even, connect that with even today. With this pandemic spreading all over the world, there is no one who could say, I don't know somebody who have died out of COVID. Now there is another school of thought, the Trumpian school of thought, who is not willing to accept science and reject science and making a mockery of science. Believers will never do that. Believers believe in science. Science is only cause and effect that Allah has laid down in this world and has promised Himself that He shall not intervene. He will not intervene. Even if a prophet is burnt, he will die out of burns. Even if a prophet is thrown into water and if he does not know how to swim, he will drown. We are not talking about miracles to prove the truthfulness of that prophet. We are talking about cause and effect. And then our fifth Imam says that the Khayyam will not rise up except at a time full of fear, and the helm of affairs would be in the hands of tyrants. Tyrants are going to teach us democracy, what democracy is. See, we have democracy now in Libya. We went there, made Libya a democratic country. We went to Afghanistan for 20 years. Now Afghanistan has become democratic. Taliban is the new face of the democracy in Afghanistan. What are we going and doing this? And then we find composition of states. Commanders will be treacherous, judges will be transgressors, and ministers will be tyrants. That will be the time when our Khayyam is going to come, our Mehdi is going to come. Another sign that I found is that one example I just wanted to cite was this MBS. This person is young and ruthless and does not know what he is doing, and he is being remote controlled into a direction that is causing destruction and chaos in the Muslim world. And why is this happening? Because there is monarchy, tyrants are ruling, and this is all happening where? In the Muslim world. The one who came to free mankind from any sort of tyranny, to establish justice, in the heart of that land, now there is a ruler who is not only tyrannical, who has the courage to bomb Muslims in the holy month of Ramadan. In the holy months, even before Islam, the pre-Islamic or the pagan Arabs would not fight. The fights would stop during the month of Ramadan. If there was a fight, there was, in the Battle of Badr, I think it was in Ramadan. But there were these holy months in which even pagan Arabs would not fight. And we see that now Muslim rulers are ruthless and tyrannical and bombing poor, innocent people who only want dignity and honor, who want to stand up for their dignity and honor, and this is happening. These are all the signs, my dear brothers and sisters. Instability of governments. Government, in the morning there will be one government, and in the afternoon there will be another one. And then another place, the importance of powers in administering the countries. How they will not have the power to make any changes. Look at the policies and the changes. There are very strong red lines even in this country for what the leaders can say about other governments. You cannot just cross that line if you want a career in politics in this country. The moment you say something about them, it is over. Whether it is you being a politician or you being a Hollywood star or whatever, you have a line that you cannot cross. How much ever you might be going and claiming that we are free country, we are free to say anything, we are free to say anything and everything about Islam and Muslims. But are we free to say anything and everything about other, traditions that live in this country or other parts of the world? No, we are not. Even we cannot call occupation an occupation. And we are saying that we are all powerful. It is in our hands. No, it is not in our hands. It is being controlled from other places. Islam and Muslims. If we look at Islam and Muslims, the Prophet of Allah says, a period will come to pass for my ummah in which nothing will be left of Islam but its name, and there will be no trace of Quran but its form and outline. Beautifully bounded Qurans that now you can buy online to give it in marriage, so the daughters can take this beautiful Quran. Nobody wants to read, but the cover should be very good so that you can show it off in a marriage. Confront hardship and still be steadfast. Then when it looks at even fuqaha, when it looks at jurists, they are also going to be used for gains. They are also going to be corrupt. And when we talk about religion, people will walk away from Islam. People will say, oh yeah, I was Muslim. No, my dad was Muslim and he believed in that. He migrated from this place or that place, but I don't really follow Islam. People will desert and go, ex-Muslims and this and that. And look at what they are standing. You will not find anything concrete that they are standing on, but people would start leaving religion. Selling of religion. Believers in the morning and infidel or a disbeliever at sunset. People would sell their religion. And in that times, for a believer, the Prophet says that if you want to hold on to your Iman, it would be as if you are holding a red hot coal in your palm. How difficult it's going to be holding a red hot coal in your palm and it's burning. That is how it is going to be to protect your Iman. The coldness of human feelings. People would not have anything called compassion. They will become so cold. They will become so, sedated that they will not have any feelings. The old will not have it for young, and the young would not have for old. Moral corruption. When the Imam would come, moral corruption would be at such a height that if a guna forcefully being done in the middle of a road, if there is a decent person, all he would say is, why don't you go on the side of the road and commit this sin? That is all. That is how sin, the most heinous sin, would be committed in the middle of the road. And then spreading of immoral actions, justifying of immoral actions. Men would resemble women and women would resemble men, and I don't want to go into the details. You know why I would not do that. But the point, my dear ones, is these are all the signs of end times in which the Imam of our time is going to come. Another sign, desire for less children. People are going to desire less children. The population is on a negative rise. Countries that are opening doors to migration, they are doing it because those who are living in those countries are not having enough children, as a result of which very soon people who are going to pay taxes will be fewer, and people who are going to be at the receiving end from the government to get benefits would be more, and the government can foresee that if that happens we will not be able to pay them. Let us get more immigrants so that they can come and work and pay taxes. This is happening in advanced countries. Chaos and insecurity. Chaos and insecurity. Nobody is safe nowhere, because something would happen and then there would be some rational justification. Look at chaos and insecurity even in Afghanistan today. I mean, those people who thought that they were helping the cause, go ahead and get them. Even their, what you call the biological or eye recognition software, whatever that could make very easily go and hunt those people down. Chaos and insecurity. Horrendous crimes that have never been thought out before. Wishing for death by those who are alive. People are going to wish death, those who are alive. And the problem is not death, but the suffering and pressure of the day, as well as tyranny of oppression. People are not going to be wishing to die because they cannot pay. They can pay, they have money, but there is so much pressure. There is so much, tyranny. People are wishing to die. Depression. How much, medicines to treat depression are being abused even in advanced countries. These are all affluent people. They are not poor. It's not like they are sleeping hungry. In third world countries, there is like 30-40% population sleeps empty stomach every night, and again they are ready to work and find work, and they are looking for work. Where there is affluence, there is wealth, people are not willing to live. They want to commit an act which is completely contrary to any human values, which is suicide. Not only Islam rejects suicide, and Islam claims that those who do so shall go directly to where shaitan lives. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Other signs is increase of death, hopelessness of people from attaining deliverance, absence of judges, wars, killing, sedition, drying up of lakes and rivers, inflation, starvation, poverty, trade, recessions, all this. Look at, if there are countries in which if you hear about inflation, it is incomprehensible even how with that inflation people can even live there. However, having said all of this, we find our sixth Imam is giving us a ray of hope. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When the companion says that, I'm afraid that we would not be among the faithful, and the Imam asks, why do you think so? He says, oh Imam, people have become so mean that they are preferring dirham and dinar over their own brothers and over their own loved ones. The Imam says, it is not as until the time when the Qaim Ali Muhammad rises up and reappears. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And then he says that I swear by Allah in whose hands is my life, there are people throughout the world in whose sight the entire world would not be equal to a wing of a fly. So they are mu'mineen. Because they are mu'mineen, this world is still continuing to sustain. If the mu'mineen are gone, Allah's chastisement would come. And the Imam is giving us hope that we become amongst those who the Imam is proud of. Now, how do we do intizar? How do we sustain ourselves? The Imam says, Min deen al-a'imma al-wara. The religion of our a'imma, our Imam, is that we adhere, we attain a quality or a trait called wara. Wara is to protect ourselves from anything wrong. Parhezgari is called wara. If you look at wara, there is a very detailed hadith that the Prophet of Allah, before the coming of the holy month of Ramadan, in the last days of Shaban, had recited this sermon in which he invites people towards the holy month of Ramadan. And when everything was said and done, the Ravi, the narrator of that hadith, is Mawla Amirul Mu'mineen, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, what is the best action that one could do in this holy month to maximize the gain that we can get in the holy month of Ramadan? And the Prophet of Allah said, Al-Wara. If we can abstain from what is wrong, that is the biggest thing. First, we need to abstain. We cannot have this and also that. मैं भी पीते हैं, रोज़ा भी रखते हैं, ये भी जारी है, वो भी जारी है. सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद. So, how should we await for the coming of the Imam? By ensuring that we possess the quality of wara within ourselves, and wa intizarul faraj bis sabr, and to await for the coming of the Imam, be anxious and awaiting for the coming of the Imam in a state of sabr, in the state of patience. We need to be patient. We should not be losing our patience. Intizarul faraj bis sabr. We have to do the intizar with sabr. Another place, the Prophet of Allah says, Tuba lis-sabirin fi ghaibatehi. Blessed are those who are awaiting for the Qaim, the Imam of our time, fi ghaibatehi, when he has disappeared. Tuba lis-sabirin fi ghaibatehim. Wasafahumullah fi kitabihi. Allah had attributed them, those who are awaiting for the Imam of our time, with this attribute in the book of Allah. فَقَالَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. When you look at the Holy Quran, the second surah, Surah Baqarah, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That's where it says, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Become hopeless and they lose all of their patience. And that should not be the case, my dear sisters. And it is something, one thing that really, really inspired people to be attracted to Rasulullah, to be attracted to Ahlul Bayt. When you look at their categories, it was either young people, because their hearts are not polluted, their hearts are pure, and they are very, very hopeful of things. Age sometimes make a person fall into the trap of hopelessness, fall into the trap where he says, I don't have any patience for this anymore, I will go off and do something else. But you see that those who were surrounding the Prophet, they were young men. Those who were surrounding our Aimma, they were young men. They were oppressed people. So we need to exercise truly our intizar, faraj of the Imam of our time with sabr and patience. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The other way of doing truly intizar is to reform ourselves, self-correct ourselves. You know, I was today at the house of the brother that I am staying. I was seeing how water is purified in a swimming pool, right? And it has to be done continuously. You cannot stop it. The moment you stop, slowly starts to deplete. So if there is no purification process for our hearts, we go and we do it and then we forget about it, that doesn't work. It has to be a continuous process. It should be a closed loop where you keep doing muhaseba. You take account of your actions, and not only you take account, you also give punishment to your nafs for crossing those lines if your nafs has done it. We have to keep this process of purification continuously and islah and reform continuously. And that's what our sixth Imam says, Man surra an yakuna min ashabil khayam falyantazir. If somebody wants to truly become a companion of our khayam, of the Imam of time, falyantazir, then he should await him. In what situation? How should he await for him? Wal ya'amal bil wara. He should act with wara, which I just mentioned. Wal mahasin al akhlaq. What is the second thing that they should have? They should have upright moral character. Their akhlaq should be good. Both outward and inward akhlaq should be good. Oh, I know so much, you don't even know you're going to go to hell. They accuse people like that. They don't have akhlaq. The Prophet had very, very good akhlaq. Innaka la ala khuluqin azim, Quran says. That we have, sent you and you have perfected those akhlaq, Ya Rasulullah. This is what a believer need to have. Apart from wara, he should have akhlaq. Wahuwa muntazir. And if he has that, the Imam is saying, if he exercises wara, فَلْيَعْمَلْ بِالْوَرَى وَمَحَاسِنَ الْأَخْلَاقِ وَهُوَ مُنْتَظِرٌ. Then he is truly awaiting for the Imam of time. And the Imam says, وَإِن مَاتَ, and if he dies, وَخَامَ الْقَائِمْ بَعْدِهِ, and if the Qaim appears after he has died, the one who was awaiting for the Imam, كان له من الأجر مثل أجر من أدركه فجد وانتظر. Another place, again our sixth Imam says, Tuba liman tamassaka bi amrina fi ghaibati qa'imina. Blessed is the person who holds on to our instructions in the ghaiba, in the disappearance of our Khaim. We cannot say when the Imam is going to come, then we are going to do it. We need to hold on to the instructions and the commands that our Imam have given in the ghaiba of the Qaim of Ali Muhammad. If we are not doing that, my dear, and what is it? That yazaq qulubuhu ba'd al-hidayah, that he does not taint or corrupt his heart after he had been guided. If you let your heart go bad, if you let your heart go corrupted after you have been guided, then guidance would completely be curtailed from you and I. It doesn't be there all along. And the best way of doing this is what the Prophet had said, Inni tarikun fikum mustaqalain kitab Allahi wa itrati ahle bayti. And if the Prophet says that I am leaving the two precious things behind you when I am leaving, one is the book of Allah and the other is my itra, other one is my Ahlul Bayt. And if you hold on to them both, then you shall meet me in Hawz-e Kawthar, the fountain of Kawthar, and you will never be deviated out of Sirat al-Mustaqim. So, ulama give comparisons of how, you can see this happening. If we are a bird, and if a bird wants to fly, a bird cannot fly with one, wing. It has to have two wings. So one is the book of Allah, and the other is Ahlul Bayt. Then only we can fly to those heights of Iman. If we want to attain Sa'ada, success, then on one wing it is Iman and the other wing is an Amal. These both have to be together, then only we can fly. We cannot just go by one wing. And that is how we can rise up. And that is how our Aimma have taught, my dear sisters. If we are adhering to them, let me give you very quickly, one of the Shaheed in Karbala, who was Bushair bin Amro Hazrami. How these companions were adhering and holding on to our Aimma. We cannot even comprehend. If we want, this is the kind of companions that the Imam of our time would be requiring. Are we there? If we are not there, we need to prepare. Bushair bin Amro Hazrami was a companion of the Imam who joined the caravan of the Imam, and just before Ashura comes the news that his son has been captured and there is a ransom that's being demanded for him to be freed. If not, he is going to be killed. And now Imam has been surrounded by the army of Yazid in Karbala. Imam alayhi salam himself calls Bushair and he says, "Oh Bushair, has been captured." There were 5 sets of What should Bushair do? Bushair starts crying profusely. In Ziyarat-e-Nahiya, what Bushair had said, the statement in the Ziyarah recounts what he had said. "O my Imam, may my body would be torn into pieces by ferocious animals if I would dare leave you in this situation. I shall meet my son on the day of judgment. I hand off his life into the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Imam, I cannot leave you." This is the companion. And this is, the Maqtal says, Bushair was the last ones to be martyred before the turn for the family members came. Amongst the companions, Bushair was the last one. Look at, yesterday also I was talking about Hilal-e-Nafi, how he was claiming who he is, that he is on Deen-e-Ali in the battlefield. When the Imam is going in the darkness of the night, he is following the Imam as a shadow to protect, because he knows that the enemy could strike without any notice. These people were willing to give their lives. Zuhair-e-Khain, what does Zuhair-e-Khain says? Imam, this is only one life. If 1,000 lives are given to us and we are killed 1,000 times, we are still not going to abandon you, Ya Imam. Muslim ibn Awsaja in Maqtal, if you see, Muslim ibn Awsaja was so old that he could not open his eyes in the battlefield. They had tied a piece of cloth so that his eyelids would not fall, and they had to tie his sword into his hand because he could not hold on to the sword, and he went and he fought. Even if you look at the conversation in Shab-e Ashur that Muslim ibn Awsaja has, he says, Imam, even if we are killed, if even our bodies are burnt, and then if we are brought to life, we are still going to be with you. Do we have that sense of loyalty with the Imam of our time? Do we even remember? Do we even strive to remember our Imam with that spirit, my dear brothers and sisters? We need to truly reflect. We need to truly see. Because we have to also continuously, if we yearn for something, it starts to manifest from our every action. There are certain people, they are following certain personalities, they are following certain celebrities. You can see the kind of, transport, the car, the dress, the style, in everything you will find, you will laughingly say, oh this guy is, a fan of whoever that celebrity is. He looks like him, he tries to talk like him, he tries to walk like, he's trying to do everything just to show how he is close to him. And he's yearning for any opportunity that he could have to meet him and take one glance at him. Is the Imam of our time in our lives so important to us that we are yearning for him every day and night? That is the third point, that we need to truly see if we are yearning for the Imam of our time. And there are, many other points that I wanted to, but I don't have time because we are exceeding the time. Having, vision and foresight in our religion, that is a source of awaiting for the Imam. Basirat-e-Dini. We need to have foresight in our religion. Should not be fooled and should not be tricked by triviality of the media in recognizing our religion and coming to quick conclusions. We should also have a foresight of articulating our religion in such a way that others can come into our fold. Because that is the greatest service that we can do to humanity, is invite others towards this khair, which is the only source of salvation, as we believe. And in this struggle, we find, like in the beginning of my speech, that I have mentioned, to shayateen, to those who are rebellious, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them all the means and all the resources. But when it comes to His hujjah, we find His hujjah comes with humanly possible means and stands in front of the Firaun of the time without anything, and yet he prevails because Allah helps him. And even if Allah gives them help, who are those who are helping? If you look at Hazrat Ismail, who was the one that was helping Hazrat Ismail? When Hazrat Ismail was thirsty, it was Hajara. It was someone who was weak. Hazrat Ibrahim had already left. Hazrat Ibrahim had left Hajara and Ismail in the midst of a desert which had nothing, and he is gone, and Hazrat Ismail is thirsty and Hajara is helping. One more point that I want to bring to your attention tonight is that it is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He protects His hujjah by the one who is considered to be the weakest in the land. Not the strongest, weakest. Hazrat Hajra was weak, and we find today not a single Muslim can complete his Hajj without what Hajra did to Ismail just to give water to Ismail. Likewise, if you look at Hazrat Isa, who is protecting Hazrat Isa? Hazrat Maryam. If you look at all the prophets, if you look at Rasulullah, who was the one who came into the fold of Islam and to protect and sacrifice everything for Islam? It is Hazrat Khatija. And for that matter, if we go further like this, who was it that came to be the first defender of Wilaya, who defended Wilaya and who was martyred because she was defending the wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We find Hazrat Fatima. It was Hazrat Fatima who was the first shaheed defending Hujjatullah. So likewise, my dear brothers and sisters, we continue to see the same trend. And when we come further, we find that Hazrat Zainab is in Karbala. as the defender of Wilaya. You would like to say that Hazrat Zainab is the defender of Imam Hussain. I would beg to disagree. I would say that Hazrat Zainab was the defender of Sayyid Sajjad. Hazrat Zainab was defending the Imam of our time. And you see so many instances how she brought Imam out from the burning tent. Then who was the defender of that Gharib who was in Karbala, who was the grandson of Rasulullah, who was the dearest to Rasulullah, who was the defender of Hussain? I would say, my dear brothers and sisters, the defender of Hussain was not Zainab. The defender of Hussain was his 4-year-old daughter, Sakina. It was Sakina who was defending Hussain on every road and every corner, and she was the one who was exposing the zulm of Yazid, and she was exposing the innocent character of her father Imam Hussain. When Sakina would cry, people would ask, why is this girl crying? And they would come to know that she is the daughter of the grandson of Rasulullah. It was Sakina and her cries that had exposed Bani Umayyah, while Sakina was being thirsty, but she was upholding the honor of her father. She never demanded water. Women came and asked Sakina for water. They could see that this child was so thirsty. They could feel it. You know how Habiba comes and offers water to Sakina, and Habiba, before even giving water to Sakina, although she wants to give water, but she wants to have a dua that Sakina would do for her. You know how this Sakina, the 4-year-old daughter of Imam Hussain, was defending the position of Imam Hussain from Karbala to Kufa and from Kufa to Sham. Maybe that is the reason that Sakina was tortured most. That is the reason that Shimr would come all the time and would slap Sakina, because when Sakina would start crying, people would know this is the cry of Sakina on the day of Ashura, when Sakina was saying Al-Atash, Al-Atash, that had brought forth Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi from the camp of Yazid towards Imam Hussain. And this is Sakina, who is from Karbala to Kufa and from Kufa to Sham, defending the right of her father. And we find Sakina being in the prison of Sham in a state which every evening she would ask her Aunt Zainab, oh Aunt Zainab, tell me where are these birds flying? And Aunt Zainab would repeat the same thing every day, and she would say, oh Sakina, you are well aware they are going back to their homes. And Sakina would say, oh my dear Aunt Zainab, when would we go back? A day comes when Sakina is so upset that she had seen her father in her dream, and now Sakina is crying profusely, and Ahl Bayt, listening to Sakina, starts crying to a point. The sada and the voices of mourning is raised to a point where the Yazid himself is hearing what this Mal'oon does to this orphan of Imam Hussain to console her. If someone's father had passed away, is this the way to console that child, my dear brothers and sisters? This Mal'oon says, send the head of the holy head of Imam Hussain to the prison of Sakina. When in the prison, the holy head of Imam Hussain comes in, Sakina takes the head of Imam Hussain and starts to cry and starts to narrate the rudat, everything that has happened after her father had left her in Makhtal when her father went. Oh my Baba, after you have left, I was slapped upon, oh Baba. After you have left, our tents were burned down, oh Baba. After you have left, we have been made prisoners and we are being drawn from one city to another city. While Sakina was crying, a moment comes when Sakina goes quiet. Sayyid Sajjad comes closer to Sakina only to recite, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Oh my Aunt Zainab, Sakina has returned to our father, but there was no permission for Sakina's body to be buried outside. Amongst that small prison, Sakina was put to rest by Imam Sajjad into a small grave with the parahan and the dress that she was wearing, even without a coffin. And when the Imam was lowering the body of Sakina into the grave, a voice, Hatif Ghaibi, was heard that, "Oh Sayyid Sajjad, return my Sakina to me." سَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by your mercy, by your compassion, by your grace, Ya Allah, protect life, honor, property and dignity of believers.